I'm going to show you a variety of techniques to paint in an expressive way. So I'm going to use sponges, palette knives, card, wooden blocks, cotton buds, anything that you can find as long as it's not a paintbrush. And I'm going to show you a variety of techniques that you can use to create an expressive painting. And the first technique we're going to look at is using sponges. To blend using a sponge, you dip into the white. Always start with the lightest colour. On this one I'm going to show you a flat sponge technique. So I'm pressing on quite hard and it's looking quite flat. I add a small amount of blue. When I blend, I normally leave a gap, there's no paint there, and then I blend into the white. And as long as it's wet, it should blend for you. And again, I am pressing on quite hard because I want this sponge technique to be smooth. The next technique with a sponge is using it in a very textured way. So you'd use a lot of paint. So you'd scoop a lot of paint onto your sponge and apply without pressing on hard so that you get a texture. Again, leaving a gap so that it blends. And that will have a textured surface. It will have a rough surface that you can use. This is an ideal technique for a background, especially of a large painting or a large surface. You can also use cotton buds. Cotton buds can be used very neatly, one at a time, or very expressively, and you can still add tone with them. You can use it with a little bit of paint on or quite a lot of paint. If you are using cotton buds, it's better to start on a coloured surface. So there I've got sponge technique that I did earlier, that's dry, so it doesn't show the white through. Some people use 3 cotton buds placed together with masking tape, and that should make it a little bit faster for you. A fast technique for a background or a large area is by using mount board or card that's chopped. You can use it as thick or as thin as you like to use. And there's also 2 techniques with this, again thick and thin. You can use 2 colours. If I scrape very hard, I can see the colours coming through and the edges are quite textured. Or I can place the paint on very thick and get real texture in my work. Some people use it as dashes and then go over the top with light. Some people use it wavy. You can use the sides, and this is quite a nice technique to go over the sponge with. You can also use a palette knife or a glue stick, and this again you can do 2 textures with. Where you can apply it thick and scratchy, or very thin. A glue stick will have the same effect, but you do have a little bit more control. It's quite like a card. You have wooden blocks that you can use, and these are in a variety of shapes and sizes, And again, it's always better to use a wooden block once you have a surface colour on top. You can use your wooden block using very thick paint, you can use it very neatly, or you can use the wooden block quite thin to get a textured wooden surface. You could use the side of the wooden block to create lines. You can scrape. Basically, it's up to you what you can do with this and for you to discover what else you can do with this. Students in art have used this technique here, where they've used sponging, going light to dark, and then they've started to apply pointillism technique with the cotton buds. And you can see here the blending, and you can see how she's done it in lines in this section. They've used the card on this background of the flower. Here they've used a contrast between very flat painting with a paintbrush, and then the background is pointillism. On this canvas they've used the card, but they've scraped the paint at angles.